Hi, Emma here. In today's episode, I'm joined by Andrew Bailiff from AdLabs, and we're talking all about Amazon advertising, Amazon PPC. We won't be talking about theory or tips or tricks. We'll be really deep diving into how to build profitable campaigns and how to scale your business with effective use of Amazon advertising. Let's jump in. Welcome to the latest episode of the Amazon Profitability Problem Solved podcast. I'm your host, Emma Bagley, and today we're joined by Andrew Bailiff from AdLabs. We're going to be focusing today's episode on Amazon ads. We're not talking tips, tricks, hacks, or theory. We're going to be talking about what's the real commercial tensions that brands face. So I'm delighted to introduce Andrew. Andrew, would you like to more formally introduce yourself and the company AdLabs that you're representing?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me, Emma. It's really an honor to be joined here and get a chance to share with everybody. But my background really is all kind of digital media based. I got started in the social media marketing space back in 2015. And that's kind of just led me through to working in the Amazon space for the last about 7 years. I got started kind of selling some products of my own online. And then I ended up kind of getting some freelance clients, ended up working at a couple agencies over time. And then over that course of time, I got a lot of exposure to a bunch of different softwares and tools and all this type of stuff, different workflows, learned a lot, and just felt like there was a gap. And so my business partner and I and our team of developers, we started AdLabs, which is just a Amazon ad management platform that is not fully automated and not fully manual. It's right in between, find that sweet spot. So you don't have to just completely give up control, and then you don't have to do everything in the console. But that's what we're primarily focused on right now. And we've got the podcast, that Amazon Ads podcast on YouTube we've been putting out content for a long time. But that's kind of led me through the space here. And yeah, excited to share a lot of real nuance to Amazon advertising, because that's really what it's all about. Amazon is a highly nuanced platform. You can't just have blanket best practices across different categories a lot of times, because the things that you're looking at in certain verticals, certain categories, certain product lines is going to be very different. What you should be optimizing for is going to look very different. The metrics you're tracking, you should be looking at different things depending on where you're positioned in the market, where you are in your product lifecycle journey, and kind of what your expectations are for growth and ranking at whatever stage you're currently in, and then how you're measuring the actual impact of that advertising dollars and everything you're spending is extremely important. And how you look at it within those different categories, the metrics are going to be very different.
Thank you. And in terms of your software, which is a software that we use at Zeal Agency, do you mainly work with brands directly or with agencies? And is it UK, US, Europe?
Yeah, so our team is primarily US based, but we work with a wide spectrum. We cover all across the globe. We have people utilizing AdLabs. We have a nice mix of brands and agencies. So there's a lot of brands that manage things in-house, or smaller brands who are just kind of getting started managing things themselves. We have a lot of people that utilize that, but we kind of come from that agency background, and that's like the experience that we have. We kind of know the day-to-day operations of agencies and how it works with managing clients, especially if you have a lot of clients to keep tabs on. And so that's our background, and who we kind of built this for is ourselves. And so it really fits well with agencies because of that background and kind of intention that we had going into it with building it. But anybody can get access and enjoy the platform and use it.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go straight into the questions. Really excited to get started. So from your experience working with brands at scale, what metrics actually matter? Now, I said at the beginning of this podcast, we're not talking about tips, tricks, theory that goes over people's head. If it's an e-commerce director listening right now, what would you say are the metrics that actually matter, and which ones can actually distract leadership teams from your experience?
Yeah, the biggest brands on Amazon that are scaling look at metrics very differently than smaller brands. A lot of smaller brands will be just like looking at their ACOS, their ROAS in console. These bigger brands that are operating at scale are much more in tune with the proper metrics that align with the category. Like I said, it's very nuanced. Like depending on where you're at and what product you're selling, what you're looking at should be different. So for example, if you sell supplements, that is a high repeat purchase driven category where you're relying on, acquiring that one customer leads to 1, 2, 3 more sales down the line in a year. So you can afford to pay more to acquire that customer because you understand the lifetime value of that customer and what that actually translates to, that one customer translates to revenue wise in a full calendar year or over a long period of time. So you can extrapolate that out, and you may be looking in your ad console like, oh, my ACOS is so high. But what you don't understand is that LTV, ACOS, or that CAC LTV ratio over time. So that's extremely important. So, if you're in a supplement category, you should be looking at your new to brand rate. Are you optimizing for new to brand, going after new to brand, seeing incremental new to brand sales growth? Which ad types drive the best new to brand rates? Should you lean into more? Which touch points are kind of reaching net new customers most effectively? And then, understanding that LTV, CAC LTV ratio over time is really what those supplement brands are looking for. Now, in contrast, if you have a really high AOV product, much, higher price, people aren't just searching and buying like they do with supplements. A lot of times those purchase journeys for lower price point items are search and buy, click, add, and buy. Like, it's not like there's this huge customer journey, but for those higher AOV products, there's a lot longer consideration window that you need to kind of understand in order to properly optimize your ads. So, we have this client that sold adjustable bed frames that are like $2,500 at least each on Amazon. And so the customer journey for something like that is much longer. It's months. It's like 3, 6, 9 months potentially. And so Amazon's attribution window only goes back, 7, 14 days at most. So depending on the ad type. So you're going to miss the true attribution of that customer journey. So the way you deploy marketing, the way you understand your metrics, you're going to be looking at the customer journey, how many touch points it typically takes for a person to convert. You're going to look at your ad mix, which touch points, which ad types are most effective at converting versus reaching new to brand, creating that initial touch point and awareness within your category, and then making sure that you're present within each of those different touch points and placements. So you're going to have queries, like you've got your audience targeting with DSP and all that type of stuff where you can hone this in. And then you've also got your search keywords, which you can also kind of think about as having different funnel stages as well. So you have very short tail keywords, which are more research based. Those are like browsy keywords where people just kind of search and look and click around and buy. You're going to want to be present there to engage that initial touch point. You're also going to want to be present in non-brand searches where people might just be kind of browsing. Again, those longer tail keywords, which are more specific, you're going to want to be there. Your branded keywords, you're going to want to actually focus on defending those, because when the customer actually comes to convert, they're probably going to search for your brand name, and you want to just make that experience a lot easier. So it's highly nuanced is all I'm trying to say, in that whatever category you're in, you need to understand what the true mechanism of growth is for your business and what those key KPIs are depending on your unique category and pricing and all that type of stuff that needs to be considered to understand what key metrics do you need to track and are most important, and then understand how to go get those metrics and track them and pull the reports all together. Whenever Amazon is so disparate, right? There's Seller Central, Vendor Central, Ad Console, AMC, DSP. How do I bring it all together? That's the real question, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, thank you for that great answer. And it also is being strategic, isn't it? It's deciding what metrics can measure and measure it over time. So some brands will be very still focused on the short term, like how much did we spend this month, what sales did we get, and not thinking strategically 6 months, 12 months, what is our goal, and are we making that growth towards that goal? So it's difficult with the increasingly rising costs of PPC, isn't it, to commit to that long-term strategy, but that's what's needed for growth on Amazon. So kind of moves into the next question. Why the conflicting Amazon objectives? And what I mean by that is perhaps a brand is trying to focus on profitability, but also sales and market share. So why do conflicting Amazon objectives damage performance? So, can you want low ACOS and achieve aggressive growth?
Very good question. This comes up a lot with clients and just level setting expectations with kind of what's realistic for their market, for their product, given the conversion rates and the market price for CPCs within their different niches and keywords that they're showing up ads on. But a lot of times, ideally, most brands want to see a much lower ACOS, but you really have to kind of step back and understand where you're at in the product lifecycle of any product. Because if it's a brand new product and you're just launching it, like your expectation should not be that you're going to be profitable immediately. And you should expect to be able to, hit a 30% ACOS and, 10% tacos and organic is growing. Everything you do is working. Like that doesn't happen. It takes a lot more time. To get things going. And if you're in that launch phase, you just kind of have to be willing to invest and accept that you're going to be operating at an 80 to 100% ACOS for a little while you start building up that velocity, building up that credibility and history on your listing, getting reviews. All of that stuff is going to kind of compound over time to help you kind of get into that if your product is properly positioned. There's a lot of things that kind of go into whether or not you're going to succeed or not, but just understanding like where you're at in that journey. Either are you launching? Are you in kind of like a growth and acceleration phase? Are you in like a mature market or a declining market? And understanding where that product is, where that category is in terms of that life cycle of the market moving and shifting and interests of consumers shifting. You really just got to understand that and level set your expectations of what you're doing. So if you have a much more mature product, then, you might be able to actually improve efficiency without hurting organic sales too much. So I have a client that's been around for 10 years, they're positioned, they're number 4 BSR. Like we can kind of dial back a little bit and not really see a huge impact to total sales because organic is already so strong. So understanding like what you can have a goal, but understanding whether that goal is even realistic and achievable or not is going to be the crux of this. And a lot of times you'll see it like if, you're operating at a 30%, you're trying to shoot for 20, you start pulling bids down on things and you'll be able to see like you start losing visibility, your spend starts dropping. It's just because your bids aren't competitive enough. There is a market price for CPCs that other brands are able to pay. Other brands have better conversion rates than you. They can afford to pay more than you for clicks. And so that's going to kind of squeeze you and force you to kind of either improve your conversion rates or be willing to be aggressive enough to kickstart that flywheel, get the velocity going on a product and see whether or not you can get some traction and actually get it to stick and continue growing. But yeah, you definitely have to understand what's realistic with your goals and then be able to troubleshoot. Like if we have a goal and we're trying to work towards it, but then we see sales start tanking. Did this with a product recently. We have a new product that's been launching for 6 months, got into a good BSR position. We're like, all right, let's try to start kind of like optimizing for efficiency here and get this a little bit more profitable, pull it down a little bit. We started doing that. Sales started dropping. So we're like, all right, let's pick it back up. We'll accept this for now. We'll keep building it up, building up that velocity and history on this. And then we'll try it again once we've kind of seen it accelerate a little bit more. After you hit kind of a certain point on that hockey stick growth of like the BSR rankings, like you're kind of just going to stay there unless you have, a bunch of stuff go wrong, new competitors, all that type of stuff. But anyway.
So in terms of AdLabs then, I mean, I use your tool, Team uses your tool, but how can your tool help brands with what you've just talked about? So, BSR, sales by SKU, ACOS by SKU. How does your tool enable that intelligence to be able to make those strategic decisions?
Yeah, it's highly complex. There's a very detailed algorithm to how it works and how we actually leverage that. But essentially what you can do is you can divide your catalog up however you want, set your unique target ACOSs for each of the different product lines, campaign groupings, whatever it may be. So that way, if you have certain products that are new versus certain products that are older, more mature, you can have different targets for different segments of your catalog. And then our algorithm is really one of the more powerful pieces of the tool because we're helping you essentially maximize the sales velocity or sales volume within that target ACOS across all placements on Amazon within your given target within that campaign. So the biggest thing that I see a lot of brands doing wrong that are just like letting an agency run wild with automation or, just like setting things up on their own. If you drill into things, you'll see that your ad spend is not most likely being allocated to placements that convert the best and are most efficient for your brand and not most efficiently attracting and driving sales for you. You have top of search, rest of search, and product page placements within sponsored products. Generally, one of those is going to convert better. There's going to be a worse performing one that converts, worse than everything else. So you should try to divide your spend up to push more spend towards the placements that convert better. Usually that's top of search in general across, because just think about it. It's like above the fold. It's like, it's the first ad placement, much more likely conversion in the top row there. But a lot of softwares don't necessarily consider how to effectively manage the CPCs across different placements to hit the target ACOS across them. So you should, if you look at your placement report and you aggregate everything up by placement, you should not see that top of search is, if your target's 30%, you should not see that top of search is 15% and product pages is 40 or something like that. Like that's the kind of discrepancy that a lot of times accounts have. And just by cleaning that up and understanding the math behind, effectively scaling sales within a given target, this really is effective at doing that. But it doesn't necessarily help you like determine what that target is. Like you need to understand your margins and what you're willing to kind of give up for, depending on where you're at in that product life cycle. Like how much margin are you willing to kind of sacrifice in this stage, and then from there you can kind of work backwards to your what your target ACOS should be. TACOS and ACOS are very linearly correlated. People will say that they're not, but if your ad account is properly set up, they are very linearly correlated. So if you're trying to decrease TACOS, you need to decrease ACOS. If you're trying to increase TACOS, you need to increase ACOS. Or if you're trying to be more aggressive, you need to increase ACOS and TACOS. So that's if everything is set up, caveat. But did I answer your question?
It did indeed. Thank you very much. But in terms of the dashboard, to add to this kind of to your answer, what's great about your AdLabs dashboard is you can just see it all. You can see all of the changes you've made, but pre that you can see all of your SKUs, all of your data. You've got this beautiful dashboard that helps you strategically to be able to make those decisions at SKU level. So I would encourage anybody who hasn't tested out AdLabs to just go and do you have a free trial period?
Yeah, we have a full 30-day free trial. If you're a larger brand and you need to kind of test it out a little longer, we extend those sometimes too. So yeah, anybody can try it out. But I think you said it better than I did. One of the best things is that it just creates a holistic view. Is like you have SKU level spend, sales, ACOS, total sales, total ACOS across your whole catalog. You can tag, group everything in an instant, like instantly pivot table anything inside your ad account, create any view that you want. Really helps with just dissecting your account, understanding your account, what categories are doing well, where do you need, just being able to diagnose and see your data much more quickly is just like super powerful. It's such a simple thing. That's why I didn't really say it, but like it's it's definitely powerful.
It's definitely
and
one of the
helps.
most, it's really impressive. I love it. So, and I can, in monitoring as well, week by week over different time periods, it's just beautifully presented. And that's really important when you're using the tool as an agency or a brand, is the user interface, being able to actually understand that dashboard and it being intuitive. And so I would
and share it with your team too, like just being able to link that out to your clients or to your team or internally. Like, if you're a brand and you've got higher ups that you're reporting to and stuff, like having a nice dashboard that just shows all of your Amazon core KPIs, the exact views that your higher ups are going to want to see, and then be able to link that out to them and they can come back and check it, change date range, and look at it anytime that they want. Super powerful. It's just gives a whole new level of insight and visibility into the performance and being able to have that kind of shared across an organization.
Yeah, I highly recommend go and check it out. You said something actually that I want to pick up a little bit more on about ACOS and TACOS. So it kind of leads me a little bit on to the next question, which, in your opinion, this is a bit of a controversial question. So is SEO on Amazon dead or misunderstood? And follow-up question is, how does PPC truly influence organic rank? because which is more powerful? So to start off the question, is SEO on Amazon dead?
Yeah. So short answer, I think no. I think it's definitely still important. You're not just going to be able to throw up a poorly optimized detail page. No bullets, no title. It's important. Like, it still matters for conversion. It's becoming increasingly less important as, AI AI search is kind of becoming more important, and the way that brands need to think about optimizing their detail pages is going to start to shift. So it's SEO is not dead. It's just kind of changing a little bit in terms of where people are searching, how they're searching, and then how you need to kind of like weave your copy into that same kind of context. So it's more about context optimization and understanding your target market and positioning your product appropriately, so that when people are on ChatGPT or whatever and they're searching for a product, when they type their prompt, there's usually a lot more context within it. So like if they're looking for a supplement, they're maybe like, I need a whey protein powder that's clean and doesn't have any fillers and is vegan or whatever, grass-fed cows or stuff. It's like all these details or whatever that they throw in there. So like on the detail page, you kind of need to be able to like weave those types of core context of what the core market is actually searching for when they buy your product. So that way it's more closely associated when these tools are scraping and looking for recommendations for certain products, that they see that. It's a lot bigger than that, than just what's happening on Amazon. Like it's your website, it's the internet, it's like all the same fundamentals of SEO that are important, of just having like this presence across all these platforms. All this stuff is extremely important for optimizing for these other new search engines. But at the end of the day, the fundamentals are still going to ring true. You're still selling to a human at the end of the day. And those same psychological biases and tendencies and triggers and all that type of stuff that people weave into their copywriting and their pricing and all that type of stuff that they do is still going to be just as important as it's ever been, because at the end of the day, it's a person who's deciding whether or not to buy or not. So that at the foundation is still going to ring true. And then to your second question, you asked about how do you really improve ranking? Is it SEO or PPC? We'll dig into that first, and then I'll kind of taper into some more organic ranking stuff. But I have seen, if I'm just looking at a product page and it's like, should I push PPC to try to get this product to rank, or should I optimize the detail page? A lot of context needs to be considered. Like, how is this product set up currently? Like, is it really bad SEO wise? Like, or is it decently optimized, pretty good, like in a good place? So that would kind of determine which one I would investigate both and see like, where is the opportunity untapped, and then kind of lean into that one and see. But in general, I would say that the more impactful avenue is going to be PPC. Like, I haven't really seen a lot of catalog changes immediately like improve ranking. I'll give one caveat to that in just a second. So yeah, just going and changing the title, changing bullets, adding some back-end keywords, stuff like that. Haven't seen that just like, boom, oh, now I'm ranking better on this keyword. Like, that doesn't really happen. What I have seen work well, though, is line extensions or merging multiple parents together, being able to basically boost the overall rank of that parent listing, increase BSR, increase ranking. So for one client, they sell supplements. That's why I talk about supplements all the time, just because it's relevant. They launched some new variations of kind of a similar product, just like a different variation, more advanced version, new formula, whatever. And we're trying to get it off the ground. Wasn't really working on its own. It was separated as its own parent. Very similar to this other product. Merge them together. They live as like kind of separate variations or whatever. It's a very similar product, so it's stuck. And we've just seen that new product get a ton of traction because they got paired with a product that had already been there for a long time. That then added, as that new product started generating sales too, that adds to the overall volume of that parent, seeing the overall parent BSR increasing. And that's just like one strategy you could use when launching if you already have like a very similar product and you're just extending the line, is like merging listings to kind of boost things initially. And then once it gets some traction on the new listing, maybe then you can separate it out, and then you have more page real estate that you're occupying within searches. You've got more placements, all that type of stuff. So I've seen that work pretty well for like boosting BSR initially, and just line extensions in general for any product. So like new flavors, new sizes, all that type of stuff. Just being able to like continually build out your catalog is really important for just growing sales and growing visibility. Amazon has, I think, like some sort of like brand health score or something like that they look at to, like when one of my brands that's like really big launches a new product, they seem to like do better than just like, you just started a Seller Central account yesterday and you listed your product. Like Amazon kind of sees that brand authority associated. Yeah, exactly. And so they'll kind of like promote a new product a little bit more effectively, and it seems to like be a little easier to get things going if you have a trustworthy brand already. So anyway, that's what I got to say on the conversation of PPC versus SEO. Now, when it comes to what drives organic rank, that is an extremely nuanced conversation, and there's a ton of different pieces and elements that really go into it. I put together an organic ranking guide. It's 11,000 words. It's on our website. I
requested it from you. I've read it. It's great.
Yes. So it goes really into detail on what all of those kind of key factors are, but it really kind of boils down to ranking equals performance times relevancy. Performance meaning, does this make Amazon money? Does it make customers happy? And does Amazon think that when somebody when it shows the product, does somebody engage with it? And then relevancy is just search intent. Like, how likely is it that your product is what this person is actually looking for based on all these signals and everything that are kind of laid out? And so if you're performing well and over longer periods of time, and you have that relevancy with certain search queries, like you're going to see your product start to rank there. But that guide goes really into detail, and we can link it up or whatever. I can send it to you so you can link it up after.
Yeah, no, thank you. It would be great. I always think whenever I talk to brands, I kind of want to get across in a polite way, Amazon is a business. So Amazon wants to present the right product to the right person so that they make money. They want brands to spend money on PPC because they'll make money. So if you optimize beautiful product listing that speaks to the right customer, is a beautiful product with great reviews, then organically you are going to rank. You drive PPC, your sales velocity is going to increase, your organic rank is going to increase. It is all about Amazon making money. If you think of it like that, rather than from a product perspective and a brand perspective, what is going to please Amazon's algorithm? And I don't mean overinvest in PPC. I mean, how is your product built right for the platform? Is it priced? Is it, is it beautiful listing? Is it optimized for conversion? Is it speaking to the right user intent? That will boost your organic ranking. Your PPC multiplies that. Exactly what you've just said, but it is basic business 101. And when you're talking to brands and they're just sick of spending money on PPC, or the product isn't very competitive, it's a challenging conversation, isn't it? Because you need all of these different elements. You're on Amazon, and Amazon's here to make money. It's not going to promote products or rank your products if they're not right for customers, if customers are not buying them. They want to place those products that customers want, that's got that data that shows that, they've got high conversion. They'll place those higher.
Yeah. And ranking isn't the end all be all of like sales growth either. Like, you could be ranked number 1 and your sales are dropping. Like, you got to understand your market and what's happening with the demand and search volume within your market. PPC is just an amplifier. So it's just going to get your product out there a little bit more. But if if the people coming and searching for this product is just like tanking every year over year, like, sure, you could be number 1 in that category, but your sales are going to go down because there's less people buying it. And so that's kind of like understanding the life cycle of your product, the life cycle of your market, and where that's currently at. Is it kind of like just taken off? It's like a new trend, new product that's like you're catching early? Or is this like this category's been around for a long time, and like there's a ton of saturation and there's a bunch of competitors, price cutting and all this type of stuff coming in and volume's dropping, whatever. Like, you can't expect to just like push more on PPC and expect your sales to grow if your market is declining. So you got to understand how to kind of investigate like where that sales drop is really coming from. Is it a PPC? Is it a SEO problem? Is it a search volume problem? Like, what is it? So you got to understand how to like dive deeper into the metrics and understand, how one metric could be influencing another, and, how to pinpoint what's actually driving it so you can diagnose and then fix things properly.
And we haven't even touched on the conversation, which is a podcast for another time, about competition and their off Amazon strategy. If you're competing against brands that are investing heavily in influencer marketing, that's driving that off Amazon traffic to Amazon. There's so many variables, isn't there, for success? So yeah, that was a difficult question. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Right. AMC. Can you please explain what AMC is? So again, we're not talking theory, hacks, tricks, or anything like that on this podcast, but to set the context, explain what AMC is, and in practical terms, why should brands care about it?
Well, you have caught me at a very good time, because I've been in the weeds of AMC the last couple of weeks, like really digging in and pulling a ton of reports. So AMC is essentially a database of all of your Amazon customer and sales data that you can access. The problem with it is that it's pretty complex. It requires SQL to write the queries to then pull the data, and you got to understand that, which can be complex. So a lot of times brands think they need like a data scientist or some sort of like advanced person to help them query and pull their data. But ultimately, it's just going to give you a lot of key insights across your full business, be able to blend data together across different things and see a lot longer history. You can get a lot longer look back windows. There's like a 5-year look back window on some tables that they have. You can change the attribution model. So if like instead of last touch attribution, like all of Amazon's ads reporting shows, you want to see first touch, like you can change that. So it really gives a ton of customization flexibility to see all of those kind of key metrics that we were talking about before: the new to brand, the LTV, the CAC LTV ratio, new to brand on sponsored products, like consideration window, touch points, all of it. That's where all of this stuff lives. And so Amazon doesn't really, they have like pre-built reports and stuff in Seller Central and stuff that show you kind of like repeat purchase rate and kind of LTV, but it's a little fragmented and doesn't necessarily give the full picture and give you the granularity that you're necessarily looking for. It's fully customizable in AMC, and you can see all of it. It's very difficult to get started sometimes whenever you have never mess with it too much. We have a podcast episode that gives kind of like the intro to it, like gives a demo of like, here's the platform, here's how it works, here's the buttons and what it does. And then I just put together another guide, which was 15 pre-built AMC queries that are designed for specific things that you can literally just copy paste, plug it in. You'd set your date range and hit run, and then it's going to output a report. And the guide kind of shows you what it's going to look like in ways that you can format it to actually like create a graph or whatever to visualize it a little bit better. So again, I'll link that up there. But it's been incredible. I personally, what I did, I'm not a coder. I don't know how to write SQL or anything like that. I just personally custom trained in AI. I took all of the table schemas and all of the documentation on AMC, and I uploaded it to this like local AI that I have, and it's trained on all the AMC stuff. So it knows how to write queries. And so I basically just ask it like, hey, I want to know, this, help me. And then it'll write me this query, and I can go back and forth, and it's usually pretty accurate. Like it maybe messes up like once or twice or something, but then it can kind of fix it. And, but that's what those queries have kind of come from, is just writing those with AI, and it's been pretty good. Amazon has their own AI prompt writing thing inside of AMC. I haven't really used it too much personally. I don't know how good it is or whether it works really well on like complex stuff, but I've seen this other method work pretty well. And then one other thing I'll mention on AMC is just the audience capabilities. I didn't touch on that yet, but within AMC, you can create custom audiences with these queries to where you can target a very specific segment of your customer base or go after new customers or whatever you're looking for, and then deploy that within your campaigns, whether that be your DSP campaigns or your PPC campaigns, which you can now add audiences to all of your sponsored products and sponsored brands, bid modifiers to go after those markets or audiences a little bit more effectively. So what I'll do is maybe like for the supplement brand, I'll go in and create like a a new to brand audience for a specific product. Basically, like what I'm looking at is a 5-year look back window. Go after people who have never purchased this product from the brand in this 5 years. So like Amazon's normal new to brand look back is a year. So like all the new to brand reporting you're seeing for sponsored brands is only considering the 1 year window. But this extends way further than that. So you can know like the true incrementality of net new sales and what's just kind of like repeating a year later or whatnot. So, and then from there, you can like build an audience and deploy that within your campaigns to go after those audiences more aggressively and optimize your campaigns for those key KPIs for your business. So, new to brand, just one example.
Do you think, I mean, there's so much data you can get, so much data that you can help with your business and your Amazon advertising. Do you think sometimes there's too much data? And when we're talking about 1 year versus 5 year, like the speed of change of how people shop, the speed of change of competitors entering the market, is it too much? Is there such a thing as too much data?
I think that I personally just love as much data as possible, but then understanding like how to sift through it and know what you're trying to diagnose and what to look for, how to look for it. Like having more is usually better, but then knowing how to like surgically go into that and understand it and then extract insights and optimizations and action steps that kind of come out of it is the trickier part. So yeah, it's definitely overwhelming to a degree, but I think that piece on like understanding, we call it reading the tea leaves, basically being able to look at, okay, conversion rate dropped. What might have caused that? And then being able to go into like, okay, this, and this, we're going to check these things. We're going to look at the detail page. We're going to look at competitor pricing. We're going to look at blah, 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 all these things. So understanding how to diagnose using data is much more important than just having a bunch of data.
Yeah,
so,
I wholeheartedly agree. I think if you went in as a e-commerce director, ops director, if you went into that world of data, you would be overwhelmed. But if you go in with like, what are you trying to achieve by looking at this data? Like, what is your objective of looking at this data? And then when you get that data, what action you're hoping to be able to take as a result of gathering that data? That's a good strategic way of looking at AMC. But just going in and deep diving and playing, you could be playing for months with them and not actually using that data to drive the business forward.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So, last question, formal question. So from your vast experience of, in the world of Amazon, but, especially with your AdLabs, from the millions in ad spend you've probably overseen, what patterns separate overperforming, like super duper performance brands from the rest?
Oh man, big question. There's a lot of things that the brands doing well do right that small brands don't. It's hard to kind of distill down into like a couple things. I think that a lot of times, at least what I've seen with sellers, is people start an Amazon business without a full game plan and strategy of how that looks in 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And that typically leads to maybe seeing like success with 1 or 2 products and that being like your entire business and you're fully reliant on that. And then the market does what the market does and things start to take a turn and your whole business is now in jeopardy and it's very stressful. The brands that do really well have a strategy in place of how they're going to position this brand, not the product itself, but the full brand. And they build out the brand through line extensions, going after additional categories, and basically not being reliant on a single vector to provide the full revenue growth for everything. So at a certain point, you got to kind of look to branch out and have a full strategy of how that product line is positioned within the broader market. And like, there's a lot of strategy that needs to go into that and research to understand like where trends are kind of going. And a lot of times these brands were just ahead. They were just early. Like the timing is super important of getting into certain markets. So there's so many things like the success that lead to success on Amazon that are just strictly based on like execution and like the person running the business being like a savage and just like a killer. And, like there's just levels out there. I've seen a lot of business owners that are just intense. And so there's just different levels of competition here. And you understand that you're going up against that. And so have a strong game plan, good knowledge base around whatever category you're getting into. And then, be willing to pivot and adapt and be relentless in your action. So I don't know. That's just like my high level thoughts on it, but there's so many things that could be said about that topic, but just a couple thoughts.
And that's the nature of this podcast is there is no silver bullet. There is no silver bullet to success, is there? There is no right answer.
There's fundamentals though, right? Like there's business fundamentals, which are still super important, whether it's an Amazon business, Shopify, whatever, wherever you're at. Like there are business principles that still ring true regardless of whatever platform you're on that are going to be important. And these brands that do well understand that, and they are very keen on observing and tracking those things. So,
and also thinking about, when we haven't even touched on like international expansion or platform expansion as well. There's so many things that can support growth and profitability. It's several books worth of content there, isn't there, to dissect. So it leads me to the fun part of this podcast, which is the quick fire round. So there is no right answer to these questions. So it's kind of like true or false, and then you can give your answer to the question.
All right.
Your opinion.
My answer will be the true answer.
Okay, obviously. Lower ACOS always means, so true or false, lower ACOS always means better performance.
False. I mean, you can have a low ACOS and sales are dropping and, you could just be not competitive enough at that, whatever that ACOS is. So
yeah, it can be just invisible, can't
false.
You? True or false, if your tacos is rising, something is wrong.
Not necessarily. False. I think that you could be intentionally increasing your tacos. Maybe you're just underinvested on a product. You did a quick audit and you saw that you weren't spending enough here and you wanted to kind of ramp things up there.
I love that answer. True, false. Sales velocity matters more than keyword optimization.
True. I think sales velocity run rate is going to dictate your keyword ranking, not the other way around.
True, false. The best performing brands optimize for market share, not ACOS.
That's like a yes and no. That's a tough one for me because yes, we do pay attention to market share, but we don't change our entire PPC strategy just because we want to capture another percentage point of market share. Like we're not going to bleed money just because we're at 2% and want to be at 3%. Like there's other avenues to do it rather than just bleeding profitability.
Love that answer. And last question, true, false. Most brands are too focused on efficiency and not focused enough on growth.
In a general sense, probably true because most sellers that are struggling are smaller and they need to be more in a growth mindset and aggressive mindset because they're competing with much bigger companies that have bigger budgets and things like that. So yeah, that'd be my answer.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, that kind of concludes our podcast. Is there anything that you want to share with the listeners about AdLabs or about you want to impart PPC knowledge that you feel haven't covered in this episode?
I think we covered a lot in this episode, but just parting words. I mean, if you've ever had a frustration with a fully automated Amazon PPC software, check out AdLabs because it's the perfect medium of manual control and automation. You are able to review changes before they're made. You get a reason for every single change being made, and you're able to preview and push changes at your own disposal in a very fast and efficient manner. So if you've ever been frustrated with other PPC softwares, just check out AdLabs. Got a free trial. You can sign up, test it out, no restrictions, and I'll walk you through it myself and give you a demo.
Thank you. And we'll add all of the links that you mentioned about the resources that you've developed. We'll put those in the show notes. And please reach out to Andrew. AdLabs, very friendly, really easy to work with, and amazing tool. So thank you very much for your time.
Emma, thank you so much for having me. It's been a true pleasure. This is an awesome podcast you're putting together. Excited to see where it goes.
All right. Have a good one.